Hello, my friends, and welcome into today's episode of Forte Catholic. I'm so glad that you are here. We've got a great one for you here today. Allison Sullivan sat right here next to me as we recorded some really cool conversations. We talked about expectations and how that's kind of been messing with my life here recently, having expectations being let down or having bad expectations and things have been good. Like, it's just been kind of a weird time for expectations. And then in the final segment, we do something completely different. We go through St. Josemaria Escriva, one of his books called The Way, and it's really kind of weird how much it connected to our first segment conversation. So we kind of have our question in the first segment, our answers in the last segment from God, and right smack dab in the middle, my friend Meghan Adams joins the show to talk about Catholicism and the environment, something that popes haven't tackled in a while until Pope Francis did, something that we haven't tackled really ever in the 7 years of this show. So we hope that you hear something that you like, something that challenges you, something that encourages you this week. If you enjoy today's show, please hit subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. Enjoy. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and that is Allison, the one, the only Jemima Sullivan. Hello, Allison.
Hi there, Taylor Schroll.
It's good to see you.
And you.
And with your spirit.
Also with you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Great start.
Well, I just realized that I have queso on my chin, which is no way to start an interview. I've just felt it. So
you felt
it? So I didn't know if it would be a good conversation piece or if I should just say, hold on a second. But yes, I have.
It wasn't a good conversation piece.
Yeah, I know. I have queso all over.
So I am happy about a little thing today.
Okay.
And I am happy about a big thing. A small win and a big win.
Okay.
So the little win is, I think I mentioned last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that we have moved where we physically are by one room over. So we were in this little closet. Now I'm over here. But for the last few weeks of the show, one of the things when we moved in here is like behind this background, there's a very shiny wall.
Yes.
So like when I moved in here, I was like, okay, we have lights in here and you could see like all the, essentially I'd look like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness when he has all those dead people and all the arms are coming out. So he has his 2 arms and then he has like 18 other arms.
Okay.
That's what it looked like when I moved around because of all the shadows behind me,
Clearly
right?
too much. So it's like between the wall and your head, there's just a lot
Too much shine.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of reflection happening.
So I needed something to dampen that reflection. And I didn't have time to go buy anything. So I was like, oh, I already have something that we use for recording often that I can use as my background. And it was the background for your podcast.
Oh, good.
So the background for the Sinner, Saint, Sister podcast was the background for the Forte Catholic podcast for 2 whole weeks.
Am I infringed upon? Can I I don't know. Is there like a copyright? I feel like.
Well, if you would have gotten copyright for that, it would have been me that did it because you don't know anything about that stuff. I do all that stuff for you.
Fine.
So
Fine, I'll let it go.
I actually own the copyright. You owe me royalties for using it on your show.
That's awesome.
But so that was the little win for me. Is that
by the way, do you feel better in this room? Like,
oh yeah, very much better. It's great. I love being in here. And the little win is that the lens on the camera, this is very technical, but the lens that we're using is now very far away from us, but it's like my better looking lens. The lens that we had to use in there was called a fisheye lens.
Okay.
Fish eyes are weird, right?
Yeah.
So we could put the lens like 18 inches from us and you could see all of us, right? Because it's like a wide angle lens, but it wasn't as the best quality.
Okay, what I hear you saying is that I'm going to be cuter here.
Sure.
Okay.
It's more up to you than it is to the camera lens, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
They distort things. Fish eyes sound distorted.
They do. So we are using the good lens today, and I'm very happy. And you know who doesn't care? The podcast audience.
Yeah, we're at 100%.
But I just wanted you to share in my little win.
Yeah.
In my little win, before we get to the big win for both of us, in my little win, there's a little win for you.
Okay.
So I had to go buy this background. Where'd you buy your background?
Joanne's, baby.
Joanne's baby?
Joanne's. It's where all the hip old ladies hang out.
Right. So for me to go and buy this background, I had to go into Joanne's. And honestly, I didn't know women could be that old.
Oh, that
I've
we
never seen
actually
women that
live
old and moving
all in
around.
one time, all at one place.
They were shopping. They were the ones cutting the fabric. They were the ones checking out. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, is this like there? I feel like it's like, girl, young lady, woman, matron, grandmother, hospice, Joanne's.
Okay. Joanne is at the very end of our life expectancy.
Right. So if any priest is like down on some cash and needs some cash real quick, just head over to Joanne's. I'm sure one of them will die. They'll ask you to do the funeral because they're like, oh, the priest was here. What are the odds?
I have a question. Were they nice to you?
They didn't really speak to me.
No? Okay.
No. I walked around very lost for a long time.
They could feel you thinking they're about to keel over. So that comes with some
They probably
side eye.
couldn't see me. And there's a lot of me to see.
Because they were delightful to me. I got Honey and Darlin. So
I just think
don't
they
know.
wanted me out. They're like, you're not one of us. Get the hell out of here.
You don't belong here. I am skeptical.
Right.
Yeah.
They thought I was looking for a sugar mama.
I actually was inspired. I was remembered because I used to knit when the kids were little. It made me feel like a good mom.
Now you just nitpick everything.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That was actually funny. But I used to knit like with yarn, and I would do little hats for the kids and whatever. And so when I was walking through Joanne's, I remembered like, oh, I like this stuff. Like I like little crafty things sometimes.
That's because you're an old woman, and we never stopped realizing that this is just new food.
Yeah, right. I remembered. But as long as it doesn't involve hot glue, because I've burned off all my fingertips. You want to commit some crimes?
There's a hot glue gun literally right there, and
that.
I don't know why. It's not mine.
Look at you. You lie.
I don't know.
You are secretly crafting, Taylor.
I can't spell my name. I'm not crafting.
These trips to Joanne's have gotten to you.
I saw that the other day, and I don't know where it came from or why it's here. I haven't seen anyone in my family use it. Maybe it's a murder weapon.
Well, I have literally no fingertips because of that thing. Bonnie and Clyde, like I'll do the dirty work, and
I don't have fingertips because I play guitar. We could be Bonnie and Clyde.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
What are we gonna steal?
Whenever I turn 80 and you turn 107, you can be my Bonnie and Clyde sugar mama. That's what we've decided.
Perfect. Okay. I wanted to include really reckless driving. I've always wanted to do that. Just let her rip. Open road. Some donuts.
You think you don't do that?
Yeah, I do drive like a criminal already. It's true.
But I wasn't going to say criminal. I was going to say another describing word, but I'll let you figure that out. Let's get to our big win together.
Okay.
We had a very big win together. And as this is coming out, it's been a little while, but we haven't been able to celebrate it yet. The Houston Astros are world champions.
Yes.
We're so excited.
It was so fun. I can finally go to bed at a normal hour. Like
That's what you're excited about?
Well, no. I'm excited about all the things, but yes, a lack of sleep was like making my emotions extra extreme. So that win, it was a really big win. I agree. I loved it.
It was so much fun. It was incredibly stressful. So the final game, the game that we won in Game 6, was like it was no score for a while, and then they scored 1, so we were kind of on the ropes, and then we scored 4, and it was kind of over. Once our with the best pitching staff ever, it was just really, really good. But Game 5, I'm gonna get the exact number wrong, but it was somewhere in the 80s for the stat that I'm gonna give you. It was so stressful, and I could feel it, and I didn't really know why, but I kind of did. I just wouldn't have been able to put it into words. But there were something like 87 or 89 batters came to bat. Let's just pretend it was 88. We'll make it we'll split the difference, right?
Okay.
Something like 88 batters came to the plate. 85 of them with one swing could have taken the lead in the game.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, it was so stressful. Like literally with any pitch.
Yes.
Because like most of baseball now is home runs, right?
Yes.
Literally with any pitch, we could win or we could lose.
Right.
It was just such a great game. It was such a great series. It feels good to win, especially after the controversy of 2017. We in Houston all celebrated, but a lot of people outside of Houston didn't want to give us any credit.
Sure.
And now everybody can just shut up.
Yeah.
Because we were the team this year under the most scrutiny of any baseball team ever, other than like the 1920 White Sox.
Yeah.
Right. And we won.
Yeah.
So take that.
There were two components that really added to it for me. One of them is that my middle son is a heck of a baseball player. He is this fierce catcher and he will throw himself in front of anything. He's just awesome. So he actually had a baseball game that night, the night that they won. And for him to be able to watch it with his team, like, I don't think he'll ever forget that.
Right.
So there's all these videos of him and all his baseball buddies, jumping up and down and turning this restaurant into a ballpark. I mean, it was awesome. And then I just love the Mattress Mac component.
Right.
That was just a blast for me. He is like, if you grew up in Houston.
I saw him in Joanne's.
Touche. They were nicer to him.
Yeah.
But if you grew up in Houston, he's just this father figure. I mean, we have watched him.
That's how old you are. He's a grandpa figure to me.
Well, yeah, that's fine. But you could watch him get older with, whipping the money out. Gallery furniture really will save you money. It was like his jumps would get lower and lower and lower, like we just watch. And then everything was the same. Like he was really good at marketing. And so it was always, I-45 north between Tidwell and Parker. And so when that meme came out of him all, gangster, he's like, roll up. I'm north between Tidwell and Parker.
Right.
I'm north between. It was just so
where
great.
I stay.
Yeah, it was so awesome. I loved it so much.
It was great. And he won the largest bet by any single person ever. He won $75 million on the series.
Yeah, I knew the amount, but I didn't know that stat. Oh my gosh.
I won $40 on the series. I mean, I'm making big moves, So it was just very exciting. And it was just really interesting to it was this kind of like us versus them mentality, which is like pretty common in sports, but I think it was just heightened because of all the scandal stuff in 2017. But it did feel like one, it was like a weight lifted off the shoulders of no, we're a dynasty no matter what happened, right? I mean, similar things with like Tom Brady. It's like Tom Brady he's the best quarterback ever. There was some controversy that surrounded him, but it's like, can you he didn't win because of a deflated football. He's been winning for 20 years, right? The Astros have been in the American League World Series for 6 years. We've been in the World Series 4 times. We've won twice. It's one of the best baseball teams ever constructed. And now everybody can leave us alone. But it's relief now. But during that whole playoff run, it was everybody hated us.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because for years it was the Yankees. Everybody hated the Yankees. Or it's we don't care who wins. We'll root for you as long as it's not the Yankees.
Exactly.
And it's been the Astros now. So usually I'm used to our teams being the underdogs because we've been so bad at sports in Houston for so long. Yeah. So it was weird to not only were we not the underdogs, but we were the people that everybody hated.
Yeah.
So it was just fun to win, and I enjoy winning.
I feel
the
like
experience with the whole family, it was great.
Yeah. I feel like all the teams that I root for live to break my heart. And so it's so nice not having your heart broken in a sporting event.
Yeah, and we've lived through enough heartbreak with the Astros. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we expected a lot. I want to talk about expectations. We expected a lot out of our Astros, but I got genuinely sad about something, and I've recently over the last few weeks, and it all had to do with expectations and maybe some unhealthiness in my own personal life, but that's a whole other thing, right? But there was a video game.
Next segment.
Yeah, whatever. Well, we all know what's wrong with me. But there's a video game called Gotham Knights. So it's Batman. Everybody knows Batman. But it was a game not built around Batman after these very successful Batman games. Some of my favorite games ever were these Batman games that come out over the last decade. Been very, very good. Very, very enjoyable. And I love them. And then, spoiler alert for those, Batman dies. So this is a continuation of the story. And it was set up to be this pretty cool experience. So instead of focusing on Batman, it was going to focus on the 4 people that he poured into in his own gruff way. But Red Hood, Robin, Catwoman, or Batwoman, Batgirl, whatever her name is, and Nightwing. So all these people that were his proteges or whatever, right? And they were taking up the mantle of being protectors of Gotham because Batman's dead. And I was so much looking forward to it. I pre-ordered it. I very rarely pre-order games. I often like to wait for sales and stuff, but it's that's how much I love these Batman games.
But this is
and for 2 weeks, I was in kind of a funk, and I was if I can just I had a lot of work to do. I was in a funk. I wasn't really enjoying playing the other video games that I was playing, whether it was a single player or multiplayer. I was just kind of in this no man's land of because this game was going to probably take me 60, 80 hours is how long those games take. You play them over the course of a few weeks, few months, whatever. So I was like, I don't want to get into another game that's that long.
Right.
So I'm going to play this one next, not this Friday, but next Friday.
Yes.
And I kept looking forward to it. The reviews came out 2 days before. Not only was it like not as good of a story as people were hoping, but the combat was bad. And the thing that hurt the most, which is like a weird thing, but like technically the actual playing of the game, it just like wasn't working. So it was like, it's all about frames per second, and essentially like the game looked like it was on a fisheye lens instead of this lens.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
It just didn't play. Like it was like the technology from a game from like 2013, and here we are a decade later with all the advancements, and it was just like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
So I canceled my pre-order, and I was incredibly sad because I wasn't just.
So you never got it.
I never.
You saw the reviews and were like,
I canceled my pre-order, got my money back, didn't play it, and it wasn't just the like. I wasn't sad because I didn't get this video game. That was a part of it, right? But canceling my pre-order meant that I was sad for the last 2 weeks. And everything that I was kind of hoping for was then gone. Yeah. So I put these huge expectations on this game.
Yeah, this is what's gonna. Yeah, this is what's.
And then it just all fell from under me, and then I was sad. Then I had to deal with my sadness for the last 2 weeks, and then still be sad. So it was sad.
Yeah, that's interesting to have experience some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. And that can be, that's a really specific light, like to just you, This is the thing. This is the way that I decompress. This is the way that I rest. And so if you were to, so for me, because the whole time I'm like, Gotham, that's Batman, right? Like I don't, I don't know the things you're talking about, but I do know the hope of if I can just get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And maybe for me, it might be, well, yeah, but I'm about to see a friend that I haven't seen in a couple of weeks, and then that trip gets canceled and it's like, oh, wow. And so, and I don't know that it's not a gift in some way. If any trips with
your friends get canceled, you totally canceled it.
That is true. That is true. I love being canceled on. Everyone knows this. But I think that it isn't necessarily a bad thing because I think it can point you back to that place of, okay, what's going on? What needs leaned into in order to get to the other side? Because a lot of times the things that we are waiting for or hoping for can be a little bit of a crutch. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, very much so. And I know that video games is my release. It's my relaxing. It's my stress reliever. And I wasn't using it because I wasn't playing games. I wasn't using a stress reliever for 2 weeks because I wanted to save up my time because I have other things to do and that sort of thing, whatever, right? And I wanted to kind of bank my time for when I play this game. So part of it is unhealthy, and then part of it was just I was sad about a thing that I was looking forward to that didn't happen, right? And then so a few weeks later, there's another game that was coming out, God of War, which is the sequel to my favorite game ever that came out 5 years ago. And the exact opposite thing happened.
Oh.
I pre-ordered it. I played the game. It came out this week. As you're hearing it, it's last week, whatever. It came out and I've played the crap out of it, and it is incredible. Good. It is so good, right? So now I'm enjoying it. I expected a lot out of Gotham Knights and got pooped on. Mm-hmm. I expected a lot out of God of War, and it's meeting, if not exceeding, my expectations. So I feel like if I took expectations out of the whole thing, I wouldn't have changed my 2 weeks leading up to Gotham Knights. I wouldn't have. I completely changed how I was living my life.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this thing, right? Yeah. Waiting, expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of my expectations for God of War have been the game's. It's either a pickup and more of this thing that I love, or maybe even a step forward. Mm-hmm. And it's great. And I feel like if I just didn't have expectations,
right,
I would have not been sad by Gotham Knights, and I still would have enjoyed God of War Ragnarok. So I feel like expectations is ruining my life. Yeah. Not the things themselves.
Well, but it's what you rely on. What are you relying on? So, okay, so I have a question. How's your funk? Where are you in your funk?
Since I started playing God of War, I'm incredible. I'm doing great. Okay. Life is good. I'm relaxed. I have the best work-life balance I've ever had. I'm doing my work so that I can earn to go play God of War faster.
Okay.
I've been praying more because of the game.
Wow.
The irony of me playing a game about a false god and it's improving my actual relationship with the real God. Incredible.
That's really great. Okay, so I think that this reminds me of first of all, I really believe in low expectations. And I have had to work on this because I expect a lot out of people. I expect a lot out of my work. And it is a disappointment, I would say 90% of the time. Because people never show up the way that you think they're going to show up.
That feels real bad as a person who's both your friend and your co-conspirator in all of your work.
I'm better. No, but here's the thing. I am better because I used to, this was like a decade ago, but I would write something, I would push post, and then I would wait and I would see like, oh, who's going to show up for me in this way? Y'all, no one.
That was like, it was 10 years ago. You weren't a TikTok star then.
Well, but it's like, if you are waiting for this outcome, like this very specific outcome, it will evade you every single time. And so really it's about the process. And so if you are relying on a game to determine some outcome, I don't know, man. But if you're just enjoying the process of experiencing this game, I think that's where the joy is. It's in the work. It's in the process, not what it brings.
Right. And I've noticed this too with movies. Like when I go, like big movies coming out, whether it's Marvel or other like some other movies, it's like if I have high expectations for the movie, I'm going to be disappointed. If I have low expectations, I'm going to enjoy that movie more than everybody else.
Right.
And it's I don't know when this happened, but like it's like I used to just like enjoy things that I enjoyed, and now I guess because I follow it more, and I guess the internet, and I have more information, I'm just like the stuff I'm interested in. So I'm like researching it, so I hear all these expectations. If somebody else says they hate it and I go watch it, I love it.
Yeah.
And it's not like this like dichotomy thing. It's just like, oh, I trust this person. They said they didn't like it, so I thought I didn't like it. I wouldn't like it because I thought the same as them. But they went in with high expectations. So I liked it more.
Right.
We're watching the same thing.
Right. Yeah. So I can't, relate to video games, but I can relate to, so again, I'm like putting this through my own lens, but it's always people, it's relationships, right? And so I had this epiphany that was like, okay, if I am expecting something out of this relationship that's going to bring me a certain something, a certain emotion, a certain peace, whatever, there's now a stressor on that I feel like changes the whole dynamic, which is what you're saying. Like I go in different, right? Like I'm going into this experience differently because of my expectation. So it occurred to me that I can get right here. Like I can get right between me and God. No one else is now obligated to make me feel anything because everything is just about this security, this connection. And now it frees people up to just be a person. I'm just a person. I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to, your expectations of what I can offer you are going to fail miserably if they're lofty. So now we can just be people and we can just, do our best to love one another because I have everything I need right here. I mean, that's the ideal. Anyway.
Yeah. And that's the transition that I wanted to make of I've been, I see these things really easily in movies and video games, but then I was like, oh, I realized how expectations are / have been affecting my relationship with God. Because when I was young and I was like first getting on fire for God and like being involved in youth group, I was being told like, boldly approach the throne of grace and, he will give you all of his good from his riches, right? With that, not just money, but like joy and happiness and serenity. And if you follow him, like, obviously bad things will happen, but like a life with God is good and there's virtue and that brings goodness and that brings people that you want to be with. And that brings like your life will be better if you're living the way that God wants you to. And then, you asked about my funk earlier, and that was just the last few weeks or whatever. But like spiritually, myself and most people I think have been in a funk since COVID.
Yeah.
And me even before that, because all the crap that went down with our bishops and leaders and local leaders and local priests and like that sort of thing. And it's like my expectations from God and from the church a decade ago, you were talking about, putting things out a decade ago. A decade ago, I was like hopeful. And like, if I ask God for something, good things are going to happen. If I do this ministry, good things will happen. If I do this good things will happen. And I realized that like, even though I'm out of like my big spiritual funk of like the 1.5, 2 years right after COVID, and even before that for me, the expectations aren't back.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything from God. I just have such low expectations because such low things have happened, right? Where I'm just like, I'm good with God. I like God. But like when I go to prayer, I don't think it's going to work. When I go to prayer, I don't think things are going to get better because I thought things were going to get better for so long and they only got worse.
Yeah.
And like, yes, things are better, right? I'm not trying to be over dramatic, but like there's been a lot of healing and a lot of growth. But I realized after kind of looking at how like, I was so disappointed by this video game. And then I was so excited by this other video game. I was so disappointed by these movies. And I really like these movies because of the expectations. And I'm like, I think that there's a part of that there where it's like, I love God and I think God's doing great things and my life is good now. But I'm still like, I'm not boldly throning the throne of grace. I'm just like, I hope things are fine.
Yeah. I don't know. That is a really, that's a really dense topic, like all of these things, because we think we have our rights, right? Like I'm a good person. So, or I mean, you could apply this to any scenario. Like I'm a hard worker. I should be making a lot of money. I am I'm a nice person. I should be in a good relationship.
Only applies to you.
I mean, fill in the blank, a million et ceteras, right? Like these are the things, these are my rights.
Right.
And so we can walk through our life expecting all of these things because we have our ducks in a row in one certain area of our life, when the truth is we weren't promised a darn thing. And we already have everything we need, because when it says my grace is sufficient for you, his grace is sufficient,
Just sufficient, though. I mean, that's like being like, hey, did you get an A on your test? Nah, just satisfactory. And that's how I feel. Like, I don't feel like my relationship with God both ways has been an A. Like, I know that's heresy and wrong. Like, I know, but that's how it's felt.
So you're saying
His grace has just been sufficient.
That Jesus on a cross is just okay.
That was 2,000 years ago. What you done for me lately?
Oh, Lord, the lightning. You're going to get shocked.
No, I got shocked by my outlets.
I am not tackling you off the current. I'm not doing it. But no, I really think that we can kind of, white knuckle these things that we think are ours. And it requires a returning to the cross again and again and again to remember the miracle. So I think I don't usually give advice because I often...
You're giving advice while...
I know, I shook it even. Sorry, that's rude. But I need a lot of advice myself. But I think you should spend some time remembering the miracle of Jesus and it not becoming so ho-hum, but it bringing about astonishment in you. So the Bible tells us all the time to remember. I think now's the time to remember.
I think I should.
Okay. Glad we agree. That hardly ever happens.
Yeah. I think it's hope. I've always struggled with hope, but I think even more so because it's just like, I don't know. I was hopeful and it didn't work out. So why be hopeful again? And it's like, that's how I've been trained for these expectations for other things. But it's like, I think the difference is God was always good, right? Like God was like you're saying, God was always good. He wasn't this crappy video game or this great video game or this mediocre video game. He's always been good, right? So yeah, it was just like, I thought I was good. And then I had that realization of like, I thought I was like healed and kind of through it. And then I was like, man, like I'm just not expecting a lot from the church. I'm not expecting a lot from God. And I think there's been lights, right? Kind of inviting me back into being hopeful and like approaching God, just like not with, essentially like my prayer life has been like, help me with all the bad crap I do and help me be more loving and help me be, get rid of this vice and grow in this virtue or whatever. But it hasn't been as much of like big, bold, big hopeful things. Cause it's like, I don't know, that part of like that spiritual muscle of hope, I think was just, what's the term? You didn't like when you lay in the hospital bed? Atrophied. Like that, my hope muscle had just atrophied. So I need to wake it up and maybe, like when I need to wake up another muscle, I use my massage gun. So maybe my spiritual massage gun will be focusing on what Jesus did on the cross.
Where's our vampire wall? Maybe that'll shake something into place. Where we hang like bats.
Oh, vampire wall. I thought you meant like, I was like, does that I thought we were talking about my wall that shocked me the other day.
No.
I got shocked by an outlet in my house the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what snapped me back into realizing that I need a little bit more hope in my life.
I'll tase you. I'll tase you anytime you want, Taylor. Out of line.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to head on over into a guest interview that I did the other day. Hope that you enjoy it. And Allison and I will be right back for our final segment right after that. With your help, we are inching closer and closer to becoming YouTube partners over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Forte Catholic. We've already met all of the requirements for subscribers and consistency and all those things. The last thing that we need is total watch time in a year. So since I've been mentioning it to you, we started off with 0 watch hours out of the 4,000 watch hours needed. With your help, we are up to 2,500 as of this week. So essentially, all that means for you is go check out some of our videos on YouTube. Watch them. Heck, you don't even need your eyeballs to watch them. Just hit play on a playlist and walk away. Either way, we hope that you're enjoying the great content that we have over on YouTube. Let me tell you about some of it. Not only do we have full-length videos of our episodes of the podcast, we also have our Foundation series, which is a Catholicism 101 teaching series that we are doing that we've been talking about a lot on the show. We are 7 weeks through a 10-week series on basic things that Catholics need to know. So whether you're new to Catholicism or you've been around Catholicism a long time and want to brush up on some things me and a couple other people, including a few master's degrees, share about just like 30-minute sessions on some of the basic teachings of the church. We also have new videos in our A Catholic Perspective series, which is looking at some of our favorite TV, movies, that sort of thing, through a Catholic lens from a Catholic worldview. 2 of our newest videos there are I tackled Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, my thoughts on that movie, and good old Morbius. That was for spooky season. So we hope that you guys can check out those today. A bunch of great stuff too, as talks, music, all of that is at youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Head on over, hit subscribe, and maybe watch a couple of videos. It would be truly helpful for us. We are closing in on that goal, and it's going to be huge for us. Whenever we get partnered, YouTube will start sharing our videos more to people. It helps us in the algorithm, and also we can force Google to give Forte Catholic some of its money. So thank you guys for your support on that. We are moving and cruising because of you guys, and we are almost there. So go check out the videos. Hope you enjoy them. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and I am joined by somebody who I've been on a Zoom call with to play a game. But today we're going to have a very fun conversation about Catholicism and the environment. Meghan Adams is here. Meghan, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. We actually we've talked before about the environment over social media and that sort of thing. Like I'll post a picture and be like, hey, I'm in a field for the first time. And you're like, those are rutabagas or whatever. I don't know.
I'm really bad at plant identification, but some of them I know.
Yeah. And so it's on like my Twitter feed, my Instagram feed or whatever. Like when I think of the environment and people that I know, you're the first person that comes to mind. And that is because you're posting about it, but also professionally. Tell us about what you do professionally.
Yeah, so I went to school for environmental and ecological engineering. And then for the first 4 years after I graduated college, I worked for 2 different companies doing environmental consulting through like a civil engineering firm. So it was a lot of stormwater management, stream and wetland design, and restoration. Definitely more of the like technical engineering design side of it. But in college, I had done an internship with Chick-fil-A in their sustainability department. And so I've known since college that was kind of like the corporate sustainability world was where I wanted to ultimately end up. And so like 2 months ago, I just started a new job in downtown Chicago, working for a company on all of their solar development projects. And so it's a real estate company for like campgrounds, which is fun. And so it's like installing solar canopies or solar like rooftop systems on a bunch of their different properties across the country.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know you got a new job. I knew that you've been working at.
Thank the Lord, I got a new job. I loved the people I worked with, but I did not like the stuff. So, or I liked it enough, but it wasn't. I
thought you were gonna change it. You're like, actually, I didn't like the people. I just liked the work.
They all stunk. No,
I misspoke. I hate those guys.
Yeah. They were so sweet, and I'm just like not confrontational. So I hated the like 2 weeks notice process so much. But yeah, it was needed.
So essentially, like, well, I was going to say essentially what our conversation is going to be is I'm going to be the idiot in this conversation. You're going to teach me some things. But as I had that thought, I was like, that's all the conversations on this show. So, like, I'm going to ask my dumb questions about your work first, and then we'll get into general Catholicism environment things. But when I first heard that you were an environmental engineer, I had never heard the term before, and I was like, isn't that God's job? Like, he was the one that built the earth and that sort of thing. So you're encroaching on his territory. What's going on there?
Well, I think that originally humans encroached on his territory and did a bad job. And then that's why I have a job now, because a lot of it is trying to backtrack and fix the things that we've done wrong.
Well, if we encroached on his territory, it's because he put us here. I mean, it's kind of his fault.
I mean, original sin, I don't know, the fall, I don't know. Something along that line. And then we became really bad environmental stewards and did a bad
job. So essentially here's kind of where I am. Is I feel like I'm kind of in the middle, which is where I kind of find myself on a lot of things. But I know that like you deeply care about it because I've seen you post about it, but then also some of your responses to me, you're like, hey, you should do this, or hey, stop doing that,
Was it about lawns and grass? Probably.
I think it was. Yeah, I was like, I mowed my lawn today. You're like, stop it. And I'm like,
that's evil. It's not. Yeah, but yeah, I get it.
My neighbors will yell at me. It's just like, I don't know any better, But I kind of feel like I'm in the middle, and it actually came up in my personal life pretty recently, and that was the impetus to be like, hey, Meg and I talked about this, and I just never, I always intended to have her on the show to talk about it. We just kind of forgot, and then, but the impetus for me to think about it again was I had somebody that I was talking to about faith, who's a faithful Catholic, and they are less than thrilled with our current pope, and I'm more of a fan of our popes in general. I just like popes,
Yeah, so, I'll take them. Yeah.
But essentially, they were pretty mad that he had been focusing on the environment. Like, there's like, oh, isn't there other things to worry about? Aren't there more important things to worry about than the environment? And then you have people like yourself who are like, not only is this important for our faith, but it's like it's important enough that you're going to give your professional life to it. And here I find myself in the middle, right? Where I'm like, I can see kind of the points of like, okay, I don't think taking care of the environment is like the most important thing in our faith, but I also think that it should be talked about. And when's the last time a pope talked about it? Maybe never. Like,
I don't think ever.
So
yeah.
So I was like, I mean, it should be talked about, right? But then I have to like look at myself and be like, well, it's not the most important thing to me either. It's like, I know that it should be more important, but just on my priority. So it's like, that's kind of where I find myself, right? So I think I wanted to talk to you about like, why should it be more important to me? What are the things that I should do? And then like, what would you say to people who are like, the environment has, nothing to do with our faith, right? So let's start from the basics. I just threw like a whole, I was like,
I can talk for an hour. Let's go. Yeah.
But I think we'll start just personally. Like, why is the environment important to you? Like, obviously, you've given your professional life to this. Why is it important?
Yeah, I think that, and kind of tying into the discussion of like other things being maybe more important, I feel like I go back a lot to, and I'm so bad at quoting Bible verses, so I don't know what the Bible verse is, and I'm going to butcher it. But the part that talks about how everyone is given different talents, and like how if we all were like the hands, then we wouldn't walk, or like, that I'm bad at quoting scripture, but like the part where everyone is a part of the body of Christ in a different way so that we can like function and do the best work that we can. And so for me, the environment's really important. And there's other things that are still important because they're parts of the faith, but I don't feel like as called to. It's like if you feel really called to one ministry and not the other. Okay, so then going back, I feel like the environment for me is really important because it touches so many different aspects of human life. And I think that like relates really well to the faith. Our faith is very focused on like serving the poor and the disadvantaged. And a lot of the times environmental degradation like ends up affecting those people as well. So like a lot of the times when a new garbage dump is being built, it's probably going to be built in an area where it's really cheap to buy land and that there's not a lot of people to like fight for them. And so that's probably going to end up in a really poor neighborhood who already has like, what am I thinking? Like lead in the soil from some factory that was there years ago and never got cleaned up. So,
right.
Yeah. So for me, I just see that all of these things like water quality, air quality are affecting people too. Or like carbon emissions and greenhouse gases, are leading to really crazy weather patterns and like climate change in predominantly countries who are like islands that the sea level's rising. And so those already are usually small countries with like a large indigenous population. So they just aren't always in a position like the US might be to just like continuously move inland when we eventually start flooding Florida. Like, anyways, so
everybody's going to move to Central Time. Yay.
I mean, I took a class one time where the professor was like a climate anarchist. Usually my professors were like, we can do it. We can turn this around. And this guy was like, I don't know if we can. And it was really interesting though, because then he talked about how like the Midwest eventually will be the more temperate zone and like our weather is going to be great. And I'm like, okay, so I'm never moving from Chicago. Like I'm going to buy real estate here. So I'll be set in 2050 when Florida's
beachfront
underwater.
property
Exactly.
in Chicago.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah. So the environment's just something that I'm already like interested in. I've always been very like nature focused. My family's very outdoorsy, big hunting family, lots of camping. I really love birds. Like I did Science Olympiad and most of my things were focused on the environment. So I just always had like a passion for it already. And then to be able to tie it back into like how it's affecting people is just really cool to me.
Yeah. I think again, I said, I'm the idiot coming into the conversation, and I know that like we all have our biases, right? Like I grew up in a very conservative town. Like it was the reddest county in the reddest state in America, which ironically enough, Ron Paul came from, who was not that. But it's just I learned how to swim in his pool, but also lots of red going on. It was just very funny. But like I know that like it's a talking point, like within politics, which like I don't really pay attention to, but I know like when you say something like climate change, I know people's flags can go up.
It's a trigger, yeah.
Right. People's defenses can go up or whatever. But the thing that kind of broke through that I had never heard was you talking about like, oh, the environment is affecting poor communities right now. It's not something later in the past that might affect us down the road. And I think it's one of the things, like, I think when it comes to like my responsibility, like what's my responsibility as a Catholic for the environment, I've always thought like, oh, if I don't recycle, then I'm ruining the environment. I never thought that like, so I always think about people affecting the environment, not how the environment is affecting people. Right now,
yeah. No,
right.
Exactly.
It's just something I never thought of. Right. Like when I think environmentalism, I think like, oh, if we don't take care of this, we're eventually going to die. But I guess I hadn't really thought of like the impact right now on communities that we live in, that we do ministry in, that sort of thing. So that was kind of eye opening for me of like, there's stuff going on right now. And like, that's the kind of work that you're doing, which is cool.
Yeah. And a lot of the environmental movement has come from sorry, my volume apparently was still on my phone. A lot of the environmental movement has been like championed by people of color who are in like disadvantaged communities. And so like, I think one of the earliest kind of environmental movements in the United States was in the South, like a Black community. It was something similar. Like it was like a garbage dump, or they were going to put a new factory that was going to be or like build some massive highway straight through their town or something like that. And it was like they banded together, and that was kind of one of the first aspects, or like the first times that environmental justice was like a coined term, which again, like social justice can be like a politicized topic that like kind of people's defenses go up. But I think tying in the environmental aspect to social justice, like there's a lot of things going on that like one, there's a lot of things that we can do to help already prevent bad things from happening. But then there's also like a lot of things that just like don't get talked about in the news, or like even Flint, Michigan, like it's talked about for a while, still not resolved. And it's not really in the news anymore, so there's a lot of communities being affected.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like, I don't pay attention to politics quite a bit, but like I heard about the stuff in Flint, Michigan. It's like, I didn't know it was still going on because I heard about it many years ago. Right.
Or maybe it's like, not anymore. It went on for a long time though, after the media stopped covering it. I'm pretty sure it's still going on. Right. Don't quote me on that.
I will. You're literally on a thing
that
is being
yeah.
yeah. So we've talked about you a bit. Let's talk about me for a second. So it is my show after all. We gotta give me my time to shine. Yeah. So and by time to shine, I mean I'm gonna tell you some things that probably aren't very good about myself. So our town, this was used to recycle, just like they pick up our trash.
Remind me what state you're in. Then.
I'm in Texas, so I'm in Bryan, College Station, Texas, right smack dab in the middle of Texas. So just like I grew up, like we had a trash can and a recycle can, and we put those out, and a recycle truck came by and a trash truck came by, right? When I moved to this town 7 years ago, we had that same thing, trash can and recycle can. And so we would do that, right? We're like, okay, we can do our part to help the environment. And then the city was like, we don't have the money to pay for the recycle trucks to go around. So then they were like, hey, you can still give us your recycles, but you have to like drive to this place. That's like an intake. So like at that point, I would say it was about 50-50. Some weeks we were busy and we would just throw it in the trash. We're like, we don't have the time. A lot of times my wife, who we're pretty similar in regards to the environment stuff, but she might have a little bit more tendency to like, oh, let's do what the Pope says, that sort of thing, right? And so we would drive it there maybe 50% of the time. So 50% of our recycles are going to trash, 50%, and that goes on for a year or two, right? And then they shut down that facility. So now, like, we just don't recycle at all because it's not like an option.
It's not available, right?
Like, it's not even like a choice now. So, but like, even when there was a choice, I was making the correct Catholic choice 50% of the time just because of convenience, right? So, like, you're doing this professionally, and I think, even we'll talk about the body of Christ thing and being the hands and the foot here in a second too, but like, this is something that you're actively doing, but it's not something that myself and I think most people listening are actively doing with their profession. So like, what are things that you would like that drive you crazy as somebody who does focus on it? Like, what are some things that like people who aren't in this professionally, the quote unquote normal people, regular people when it comes to the environment stuff, what is something, a few things we can be doing?
Okay. Good question. So recycling is already kind of a touchy topic because a lot of the times recycling is collected and then it's either like mismanaged and it's not recycled properly anyways, or like they're like, we don't actually need this much plastic, and then they ship it off to another country. So like recycling is not always the best thing to happen.
Well, you're welcome. I stopped doing it.
Yeah, good for you. Throw it all away. So I think that like in school, reduce, reuse, recycle. So recycle those things aren't all equal. Like reducing is the most important thing, and then reusing, and then recycling. So if you get, a jar of peanut butter and like, okay, so maybe you can't reduce the amount of peanut butter that you're eating. I love peanut butter, but like, then when you're done with that jar, like if you could reuse it for like storing something, or like taking a salad to work as like a Tupperware almost, or something like that, before you just throw it away if you don't have recycling as an option, like kind of those kind of mentality shifts, or buying things and not putting them in plastic. So if you're buying food at the grocery store and like those little plastic bags for vegetables, like you're going to wash your veggies anyways. Like, why do you need another separate bag? Just like toss them in your cart, things like that. Like little shifts where you're just not using as much stuff that's going to be thrown away is like a huge thing. But then also something that I struggled with for a long time, I've always joked that I have Catholic guilt on one side and then like environmental guilt on the other. So I have anxiety, like, and so those things were really debilitating for me for a while in college, because it was like I was learning, all of my classes were focused on the environment, and a lot of them, like the one with the anarchist guy who was like, I think we might just be screwed at this point.
We're all gonna die.
We're all gonna die. So classes, I got a little paranoid. I got a little bit overwhelmed with like, what can I be doing as a person right now? And what am I doing wrong? And for a while, I kind of toyed with the idea of being zero waste. And I don't know if you know that concept, but it's basically like you're not throwing anything away, or like the most minimal. Like maybe you're getting all your stuff at the grocery store and there's like a sticker on an apple or something, and you can't like avoid getting a little sticker on an apple.
Eat it.
You sure. Yeah. You're like, yes, this is mine now.
Yeah.
So there's like maybe a little bit of trash that you're still producing, but you're like majorly reducing. And I kind of tried to do that, but it's also a really hard thing to do. And I had to give myself some like grace to not be a perfect environmentalist. A lot of people who are being zero waste online, that was their like full-time influencer kind of job then. And so they could do it because they could go to all the fancy stores. I was a college student. Like it just, people are not all in the same spot, and you can't just be like, you all have to do this exact same thing. Otherwise you're a bad person. Like that's not what I would ever try to advocate for, because it can be very debilitating if you're like, I think that the world is going to burn. And you're like, if I don't do all the things right, it's my fault. Like that's bad. Yeah. So I think then like, I think one of the biggest ways to be impactful for the environment is like to support like policies that are going on or things in the town. Like if your town does any sort of like green infrastructure to reduce flooding, like that's really great. If if eventually like recycling is like, should we recycle again? Like, and that's on some like ballot or something, like supporting those kind of like grassroots efforts to bring back like community-wide programs, I think are really important. So I think there is a fine line, like you're a parent with a family, like you're not going to be able to be like, I'm going to live zero waste and just like never buy anything in plastic again. Like that's just not feasible for you in this like state of life. Like that's hard to do. Yeah, it stinks though that you can't recycle. Like that's sad that they don't offer that. But yeah, if you have a yard, like composting is really good. I don't know if you've
my wife has tried. I don't think we're doing it currently, but she definitely went through a phase where she was doing that. So.
Yeah, I eventually convinced my parents to do it. And now my dad got like a vermicomposter, which is when you have worms in a bucket and they compost all your food for you. And then he killed a bunch of the worms, and then we tried again. So we have a bunch of worms in my parents' house right now.
I really want to like, you know how you can like edit, like people do it all the time to like edit what people say to like make it whatever you want, right? Yeah. I really want to make a clip of like me asking you like, what can we as normal people do for the environment, and just cut to worms in a bucket.
I mean, it's not wrong. Like vermicomposting is really good. Really great for the soil, puts lots of nutrients back into the soil, reduces the amount of stuff that you have to throw away by like a considerable amount. So there are definitely little things to do. I would say don't beat yourself up.
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing that's like realistic is like, what are the ways that like me and my family can do a little bit more of the reducing, reusing, and like we can't recycle right now, but I do think I think I saw this week that like some private company I think is coming in to Bryan to try to start doing recycling, because it's been a year or two since the city was doing it. So maybe we'll look into that. But then also like on the policy level, like we just went and voted last week, right? So I like that balance there. And it's like, it's because it's always like, I say all the time, if you want to win people over to your side, I think a lot of people are like the anarchist guy. It's like, we're all going to die. There's nothing you can do, or you have to do or you have to be like zero waste or whatever. Right. But one of the things, like I'm a huge Apple person. Everything that I own is Apple, and like I noticed.
Oh, I thought you meant the apple, the fruit.
No, they always tend to have stickers on them, and I eat them. It's really confusing.
Okay, yeah.
But like Apple, the company, I noticed that like at all of their conferences and stuff, that they're saying that like, oh, we're using less and less materials. We're going to be carbon neutral by this time. And they have all this environmental stuff. And it's like, again, it's not one of the things that's like super important to me, but it's also like, oh, that is cool. Like that's by buying these $1,000 of Apple products, it's like I'm contributing to this in some small way. Right. So yeah, I think the last thing is that I wanted to ask is like, I love that you brought up the body of Christ. I was going to bring it up anyway, whether you did or not. And we could both not quote scripture well together. Right.
I'm so bad at it.
because like it's literally, I was telling I was just at my son's football stuff, ironically enough, in a very open field. It was very nicely cut. Whoops.
Okay. You have to have grass for sports. I get it. It's fine. Moving on. We're moving on. Yep.
Right. So I was telling him, I was like, oh, I'm going to be talking to this person about the environment. It's not something I've ever talked about in the 7 years of the show. And I was like, I was excited to talk about it because it's like a blind spot for me. Like it's not something that I think is important, just not something that like I'm actively engaged in. Right. And he was like, oh yeah. He's like, we all have to play our part. Right. And so
Your son
like,
said that? That's
no. The athletic director. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
My son's
I'm going to picture it as your son.
Oh yeah.
Being very wise on
he
the
won
on
the
the
skills
field.
competition. He's very good at punting, passing, and kicking a ball. So
All right. Yeah. We all have our part. I can't do that. So
right, exactly. Me either. I'd tear all my muscles at this point. But I just thought I was thinking about that, right? Where I was like, you're the active person. You're the hand in this environmental thing. Like you're the active person, but it's like that doesn't mean me, the shin bone, doesn't need to do anything, right? So I'm like, I've been thinking about it this week as we've been talking about this topic, but then even after you said that, it's like, okay, what are the little things that we can do, and then how can I affect the bigger things with voting and all that kind of stuff, right? My last little thought here is funny, like all the things are combining, right? My neighbor, a lot of people in our neighborhood are starting to get solar panels on their houses.
Awesome, yeah. In Texas, it makes sense.
Yeah, lots and lots of sun. So my neighbor got it, and she's a very devout Catholic, and I think she did it partially as environment stuff, but then also like it saves money, right? If I do it, it's going to be 100% to save money.
I get that. A lot of the times, environmental things can save a ton of money. Like a lot of the times, it's mutually beneficial.
Right. So it was kind of funny, just like, again, just like how it all kind of happened naturally. It's like, if I do this, I won't have to pay this incredible AC bill when it's 110 degrees outside. And it was just like, I love that it's just like, I don't know if it's, God or just happenstance or whatever, that it's just like, here's this big thing that I can do for the environment that's totally going to benefit me,
Right.
And I'm super excited about it. So
Are you going to do solar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. We should talk about that later.
Okay. Yeah. So she says that's what you're doing now. But we had one guy come to our door asking about it, but then we're gonna go with the one that my friends get because I think they get like $700 if we do
nice.
it.
Referral. Yeah.
And I said I would do it if they gave me half of that.
Amazing.
So yeah, whether it's purely out of selfishness or self-preservation, or even if there's a little bit of goodness in my heart, both for me and my community, I'm glad we had this conversation. And I think I'm gonna be 5% better just after talking to you. I
love that. Yeah, and that's we all are growing. We're all learning new stuff. So that's all you can ask for.
Okay, so final thoughts. We know that this is a focus for you. We know that Pope Francis wrote an encyclical about it, and it was cool that somebody finally addressed this, right? So I'm going to give you the final thoughts. What is the last thing that Catholics need to know about what their role in helping the environment?
So I think that it's become a very politicized topic, but I don't think it should be, or it even makes sense to be a political topic. I think it comes down to these are things usually that are mutually beneficial. So even if you're like conservative, it's going to save you money probably in the long run. So like that's good already. But then also like it helps a lot of people out as well. And like a lot of people who are struggling do not need an extra burden that's caused by something environmental. So just reframing it to be that like these are good things, and it doesn't have to cross like a political line. It can just be purely like this is good for people. I think that would be the main takeaway.
Well, that's great. Every time I think about it, I always go back to literally the first story in the Bible where it's like, what was our run rule? Name these animals and take care of the environment. So it's like, it's there right from the beginning. So Meg, thanks for spending some time with me today. You can find Meg at Red10, the number 10, Meg on Instagram and Twitter. Meg, thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back with Allison Sullivan. We've got an update on our Rome pilgrimage. We're very excited as signups are starting to come in, including none other than the Queen of Fun herself, Miss Liv Harrison, will be joining us. So if hanging out with me and Father Anthony for 10, 11 days in Italy wasn't enough, now we've got the Italian woman herself, Liv Harrison, joining us as well. So if you would like to join us for our pilgrimage in Rome, where we're going to the holiest sites in the Vatican, Rome, Assisi, Tuscany, Florence, we hope that you will join us. You can find all the information at fortecatholic.com/travel. If you've been kind of on the fence, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you guys about the trip, and hope that you can join us for this incredible trip, our first ever pilgrimage that we're doing with Forte Catholic. We hope that you can come, enjoy the holy sites with us, have some food, have some wine, have some drinks in one of the prettiest places in the world. fortecatholic.com/travel. Come to Rome with us. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, rejoined by Allison Sullivan. Allison, in the first segment, we talked about some detriments that I have had in my spiritual life recently, and you gave me some great advice because you're super holy and doing great. So we're going to test both of those theories here in our final segment. We have talked about this book one other time. I talked about it with the other Lene, Jonathan Bearded Blevins, from this book from Saint Josemaria Escriva. This book, it's actually 3 books, called The Way, The Furrow, and The Forge. I've only read The Way. It's a full book, but this is like the small version of it, right?
Okay.
He's a saint. He's a founder of an order, and he essentially, what this is like a devotional book, and it's like little 1 to 4 sentences things. It's one of those things that, like, you put behind your toilet and kind of read while you're taking care of business or whatever. I read it when I was in college, ironically enough. We talked about remembering. I'm going back to, every time I go back to this book, it's like, oh, that was a time. It was probably the holiest of my life. Because I was single and no kids and going to adoration every day and reading the Bible and reading this book or whatever, right? But essentially, it's like little sayings that he said to either brothers, priests in his community, or to like lay people from letters or things that he said or whatever, right? They're just these little sentences. And how the book is grouped is that it's grouped into different topics, right? So it's like his little sentences on character or prayer or holy purity or heart or mortification, study, lukewarmness, charity, love of God. Like, that's how it's grouped, right? So the last time we did this, I asked John, I was like, what are the 3 that you want us to focus on? I kind of left it up to him.
Okay.
And we had a great conversation. So essentially, we picked little, from the headings, and then I have highlighted like the ones from back when I read it, like the ones that really stuck out to me, right? Yeah. But I wanted to make it a little bit more fun with you. Okay. I feel like this segment is evolving. So what I wanted to do is for myself, I picked like 1 that I think I'm doing pretty well at, and 1 that I'm not doing too well at, and we'll focus on those 2. I also thought of 1 for each of you, for you. Yeah. 1 that I think you're very good at, and 1 that maybe you could use a little bit of help in, right? And you've done the same for me.
Yeah, except I have 2 in each category.
No,
I should just have 1.
Just have 1, because we've spent way too long in our intro about the Astros that we don't have time to do 2 each.
Fine.
I barely think we have time to do 1 each.
Okay.
Okay. So how would you like to start this? Would you like me for me, me for you, you for me,
you for me, you for me?
Euphemism. Okay. Me.
What do you think I'm good at?
I think you're good at heart. I don't know what they mean by heart, but I think your heart goes into all your work and all your relationships.
Thank you.
Brought that up earlier. Okay. I think you have a heart for God, a heart for people.
Thank you.
I think heart is a very good one for you.
I'm glad you started off nice to me.
You chose that.
Intentionally.
Well, now you're going to leave being mad at me. Because
it's okay.
Okay, I need to find the page for heart. That is page 33. Jesus' death year, my current year.
I did consider heart for myself, and I did not go with it.
Okay. Here's one. Why stoop to drink from the puddles of worldly consolations if you can satisfy your thirst with waters that spring up to life everlasting? Literally our first segment.
Totally.
I'm finding joy and relaxation in my video games, and you're like, hey, remember that Jesus died for you? Maybe that will bring you joy. Boom.
Wow.
That's perfect. Let's do another one.
How about that?
Your heart weakens and you reach out for something on earth to support you. Good. But take care that your grasp to stop you from falling doesn't become a dead weight that will drag you down, a change that won't save you. Like, it's literally, these are the answers that you're giving. It's like the worldly things.
I have chills. That is crazy.
It's like the video games, he's saying they're not bad, but focus
make
on
sure
God
it's
first.
not, yeah.
I think it's perfect. Okay. Now you do the one for me that I'm good at. What do you think I'm good at?
Okay.
I wish there was a category called nothing, like nothingness or... What are you good at? Nothing.
I think that you are really good at perseverance.
Really? That's good. That's good to know. That was the last one. It's not the one I chose for myself, but I totally accept perseverance. It's on page 251. Do you think you're any good at perseverance?
No, I'm terrible.
Really?
I change my mind all the time. I'm like, oh, I'll do that for a minute, and then I'm gonna completely change course and start a new hobby and/or career.
Well, this is not going to be good for you then. To begin is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
To persevere is for saints.
Yes.
I'm so
I'm telling you, you have such focus. You are laser focused on calling and what you want to do. You have a lot of goals and you're going to stay at it. You are very, very perseverant.
And it's interesting too that this, I think, connects to the conversation we were having in the first segment too. It's like I persevered through all the crap that was going on, right? Mm-hmm. It left me kind of bruised and broken, but I persevered and I'm still here and things are hopefully going to get better. Oh, look, this is like perfect. What did I just say? Here's the quote from here. Here's the quote from St. Josemaria. My enthusiasm is gone. That's a quote. You wrote me. Yours has to be a work not of enthusiasm, but of love, conscious of duty, which means self-denial. This is like,
wow.
We didn't even plan this.
What in the
like
world?
The perfect answer for my issues earlier. I mean, you
God
have
is
nice
near.
answers,
God
God's
is near.
answers are
Yeah,
better,
bro,
right?
that's fine. That's fine.
So it's like my enthusiasm is gone. You have to do not work out of enthusiasm, but work out of love. I just did a talk the other day. Said love is a choice. It's not a feeling. I can't command you to love, or I can't command you how to feel anyway. I'm like, hey, you need to be happy right now, or hey, you need to be angry right now, or hey, you need. I can't command you how to feel because you can't do that, but I can command you to do something that's a choice. Right?
Yes.
Do this or do this. You have to make a choice. I love that. Conscious of duty. This is my duty. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, what do you think I'm bad at?
What do I think you're bad at? Well, it's a long list, but luckily only one of them was in this book. You didn't like that joke. I thought it was a good joke. Okay, this one's not a joke. I actually think this is good, and it's not even a diss. So maybe we should have done yours first, because if yours is a joke, it's going to look really funny.
No, it's not.
But one of the categories is interior struggle, and you've been open about interior struggle. I don't know if it means exactly. Again, I haven't read this in a long time, so I don't know if it, but like some mental health stuff, and like you've been open about it on this show, on your show, whatever, over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Internal struggle.
I can get in my head about things. Okay, so there's a saying, someone wiser than I said it, but it's that your feelings should be servants and not masters.
Right.
And so my feelings can really master me sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's find one. Here we go. Oh, I highlighted this whole thing. Another fail and what? Oh, another fall and what a fall. Despair? Question mark. No. Humble yourself and through Mary your mother have recourse to the merciful love of Jesus. Amise re re, meaning have mercy on me and lift up your heart. For now, begin again. Begin again was like my spiritual cry like 3 years ago. The way this stuff is lining up, I know that's what it did for me, but it's just crazy how it's
But you were the one that was needy in this first segment. I just feel like God is really, this is a consolation. I really feel that way.
Very, very much so. Let's do another one. That one's, let's see what this one says here. That one's long. We're going to read it. That confusion in your spirit, the temptation that envelops you, is like a blindfold over the eyes of your soul. You are in the dark. Don't insist on walking by yourself, for by yourself you will fall. Go to your director, to your superior, and he will make you hear once again those words of Raphael the angel to Tobias. Take comfort. Before long, God will heal you. Be obedient, and the scales, the blindfold will fall off your eyes, and God will fill you with grace and peace. I feel like this is the most blessed segment we've ever done in my life.
I mean, really. So, and what I chose for myself that I was bad at was obedience.
Really? Mm-hmm. I almost chose that for you, but I thought it would be mean, so I went with it too.
Oh, I agree with you. It's true. I don't like, you know what I don't like? I don't like expectations. I don't...
On other people, or other people putting expectations
on me. I don't like it. I feel controlled and I completely rebel against it. And so obedience, even if it's things that are good and I should be doing, it's hard for me.
Yeah. I looked at it. It was probably my second one, maybe third one, because I was like, you do rebel against authority. And like, we kind of have that in common.
Yeah. Well, I thought about it for you and I'm like, that's not true. Like there was a couple that I was like, and I'm like, that's not true. And in fact, I can't see what I actually did choose for you because my notes aren't showing up. And so I can only see the one that I've kind of changed my mind on. Humility.
Humility? Yeah, I'm not very good at it. So we're doing...
You're not terrible. You're not. It takes you a minute, but...
Humility is interesting. pride was a very big thing for me when I was younger. Being fat and bald has helped a lot. When I was good looking and had a six pack, I mean, I was God's gift to earth in every category: looks, personality, joke. Like, imagine these jokes, but from a better body. I'd be irresistible.
I think you overestimate your jokes.
I'm kind of playing to the pride a little bit. I don't estimate my jokes. I'm hilarious. I laugh every time I say something funny.
So like, I will just hear my voice in another room when you're editing something, and I'm like, oh, and you're like fist pumping Arsenio Hall style. Oh, you don't know who that is when you hear yourself.
I know who he is. Only I know that he had a talk show. I don't know anything about it. But he was in Coming to America.
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
one of the greatest American films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about obedience quickly, and then I went to humility.
Well, we went to humility because
I feel like I've gotten better at it, but I still swing towards pride, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that made me get better with the whole pride and humility thing was, I think, more than the thing that pisses me off the most of like almost any vice other than like murder. I'm like, no, like everyday vices that people have. The one that pisses me off the most is like false humility. Oh no.
Yeah.
Hey, you gave a great talk. No. Either saying it wasn't good or like giving God all the credit. It wasn't moving your bottom jaw. Like, you did it.
Yeah.
Like, with God's help,
prepared.
right? In the same way that like the scriptures were God inspired, but like Matthew still needed to know how to write Greek.
But what's underneath false humility that's so annoying? It's a lie. It's like
it's lying.
It's lie
because it's like for most people, like,
I feel like it's another form of vanity.
For most people, it's they know they are totally receiving the compliment and taking it in because they know that it was good and lying on the outside, and it pisses me off.
That's a good explanation of that.
But
I don't like it either.
So I think accepting humility for what it actually is, learning what humility actually is, because I thought humility was false humility for years, so I rejected it even more. Right. Yeah. But humility is just telling the truth.
Exactly.
That's all it is. It's like,
exactly.
Hey, you have these gifts and talents here. You don't have these gifts and talents here. You struggle here. Acknowledging all of that as truth is humility, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you say, hey, you're a great piano player, I can be like, no, I'm not, because I'm not that great. I know how to pluck around on little chords. But when you say like, hey, you're great at, you did a great job editing the podcast, I'm like, thanks. I know.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise to me because I know that I'm good at it, right?
Well, and even seeing yourself no more or no less than how God sees you. You know, and that's there's always a tension there, because yes, I'm a sinner and fall short of glory. And yes, I am, a son of a king and blah, blah, blah.
Son of the king, you son of a king. Okay, let's read some on humility. Don't aspire to be like the gilded weather vane. No, I'm not reading that one.
Lame-o. Did you highlight it?
I did highlight it. Okay. It was because of pride. You thought you were already capable of everything all by yourself, but then he left you out for a moment and you fell headlong. Be humble, and his extraordinary aid will not fail you. I think the place where I still have a lot of pride is I do try to do everything on my own strength and like not asking God. It's like, no, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Right. And not asking God for help. And he's actually pretty good at not bringing out good fruit on the things that I do on myself, by myself. Like, it's almost ridiculous how obvious it is.
Yeah.
And yet I'm still an idiot and choose to do things on my own.
The things that I try to strong arm, I always end up looking at them like, meh. Let's put it this way. The things that I am most in awe of, I feel like happened by accident, except it's not, because God is good, but it's always like, I have no idea how that happened.
Right. That's false humility. It pisses me off. All right, did we do them all? I kind of got lost there in the middle.
I think
okay,
so.
Cool. Well, I love this. I think it's great devotional reading.
I didn't say I don't think it was heart. I thought it was charity. I feel like I have
it's very similar.
A charitable approach to people and their hang-ups or poverties or whatever. So, but that's the only thing I think we missed is what we think we are.
I think so. Here's why I think I chose heart over that, because heart, you have very strong feelings, both positively and negatively. I feel like, how everybody says like, oh, your mom's so great. I don't know if people say that, but like a lot of times like, oh, your mom or your dad's so great. And it's like, well, you don't live with them. Right. So I think you have heart sometimes behind closed doors. privately. You
So
might not have charity all
I'm the
time.
one where you're saying, oh, you don't live with her?
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's so
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
that you don't live with her.
You're like my mom.
My mama don't like you, and she likes everyone.
And like, that's the thing. Is like anytime somebody says like, oh, like you love your mom, but it's like she's not the person you think she is. She's not perfect, right?
Oh no, yeah. Lord.
And I think like you are a very charitable person, but
Mm-hmm.
I like the heart. I like the feistiness.
So heart's,
a little bit.
yeah, I know you do. But so heart's more all encompassing
Right.
of like just
very much
kindness.
feeling all the things, not just acting out of love all the time. I feel like I would pick, maybe it's my bias. I would pick like an actual nun, like not a sister for charity. Maybe some sisters, right? But I think more like quiet contemplative for that kind of charity, right? When I appreciate your feistiness.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's not going anywhere. I've tried really hard.
Well, good. Well, you can stay feisty. I'll stay a little prideful. Just a little bit.
It's fine.
No false humility, a little bit of humility.
I accept it charitably.
Fine. You're a loving person. Is that what you want me to say?
It's fine. I like my sassy side
too. Would he pick charity or heart for you?
Gosh, that poor man. Right? I mean, he is always on his toes. What are you going to get? Who knows?
Man, I just asked the question thinking he would pick one of those two. What if he picked one of the other ones? There's so many possibilities.
There are.
We should ask him.
Yeah.
We're going to ask him and we'll report back. I'm Taylor Schroll. That's Allison Sullivan. We are both trying to grow in holiness and we're trying to help each other out along the way. We hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please hit subscribe and she'll be back next month. I'll be back next week. See ya. Thank you guys for watching and listening today. We hope that you enjoyed our conversation. I just had to laugh whenever I looked at the video of this one after I had all these expectations that this new camera setup was going to be the solution. And then the camera was just like 2 inches out of focus. It focused on the microphone instead of our faces. So I just thought that was a funny conclusion to our conversation about expectations, as mine were very high for how this episode was going to look and ended up being like, dang, it's not bad. It's just like right out of focus. So we hope that you have a pleasant week this week, and we will be back next week. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the show or anything else we have going on the YouTube channel. Love you guys. Bye.